Instagram. Okay, we are live now.
See it?
And of course, it's not working on Instagram. Good morning, everybody. Oh, it looks like it's working now. Perfect. Okay. This is Billy Parrott. It is Friday, so that means it's coffee chat time. And we're doing things a little bit differently, as you can see. And I'm just going to check my Instagram feed and just see if it's working okay. We are going live with StreamYard today because my special guest is all the way on the other side of the country in Peoria,
Illinois. Yep.
Okay. It's not Illinois.
No, that S is silent.
As some people think it is, which is funny because I actually grew up in, see, let me check out the feed here. I'm distracted. Squirrel. I don't see it on my Instagram, but there's people on there, so it must be working. All right. I actually used to live in North Chicago, Illinois, which is like Great Lakes where the base is, but apparently that's no longer there. I don't know. I haven't been back in that area for a while, so where is Peoria from there?
Peoria is right in the middle of the state, so we're about 2.5 hours south of Chicago.
Okay, got it. And you're in Chicago today?
I am. I've been in Chicago for 2 days. I'm on the strategic planning committee for Illinois Realtors.
Yes.
So time to go home today.
Yes. And how long have you been there today or this week?
I got here on Wednesday morning.
Okay.
So we had it Wednesday, yesterday, and then it's done. It's done until 2027.
Cool. Yes. Well, if you guys don't know who Suzanne is, we are fellow NARLA, National Association of Realtors Leadership Academy for 2024. And I just thought, hey, it'd be cool to bring you on and we can kind of talk a little bit about leadership. You're also a fellow runner. Yes. I see that you're doing quite a bit of runs. So why don't you introduce yourself to those who may not know you?
Okay. My name is Suzanne Miller. I've been a realtor for 17 years. So I like to tell people that I started when I was 12. Me too. Yes. And I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay, nice.
So I got a cello scholarship to Bradley University in Peoria, Illinois, and then I ended up making Peoria my home.
Awesome.
Let's see, I got degrees in music and psychology, which the psychology part really comes in handy every day in what we do and just in everyday life. But I was in fundraising, I was in advertising, and one of my clients was actually the owner of my current company, Jim Maloof. And Jim, he was a 3-time mayor. He was very big in the community. He actually was part of why St. Jude is so prominent in our area, which I'll get to in a bit. But I always went in to try to get him to buy outdoor advertising. And one day when I came in, he's like, "Why don't you become a realtor?" And I said, I don't know. Like, I just didn't know what to say. I'm like, well, I don't know. I'll have to see, because I had a very nice job. I had a base pay. You know, I was doing well on commissions and stuff, but I had health insurance. I had a 401k. My husband had a full-time job as well. And so I'm like, I don't know. I mean, we got it good. But after a while, I'm like, you know what? It does seem like something I would like to be. I have an interest in it. And then I took the leap, and 17 years later, here I am. So
I love that. I love hearing people's origination stories, like how they got involved in real estate, because I have kind of a similar story. It's someone tapping on the shoulder and saying, "Hey, have you thought about this?" And I was the same boat as you. Like I had a
I don't know.
yeah. I had a really good job at the time. I was thrifty nickel selling advertising and making pretty good money at that time and loved my job. And I was like, heck no. Like when and it was my realtor at the time. She's like, have you thought about real estate? I'm like, heck no. Like it wasn't even a thought. It wasn't even on my radar. I was like, no. And I think a year or two went by and she asked me again. And I actually got approached by another person that asked me. And I thought, and at that time, things had changed in my job. And I was like, yeah, maybe it is time for a change. And I took the leap in 2009, which that was like probably the worst time ever to start real estate.
Yep.
And people were like, are you crazy? Like my boss, I remember when I went into his office and gave him my notice, he actually used the words, are you effing crazy, and like yelled at me and got so mad and red in the face. And I was just like, so then you start second guessing it, right? Like, oh my God, what am I doing?
Well, our families thought that I was crazy because
Yeah.
our daughters were 1 and 4.
Mm.
And they were like, you have small kids,
Yeah.
you're never going to be home. You're never, and I'm like, this is a job that I'm going to be able to say what I'm going to do, when I'm going to do it, and how. And I always had a very good, excuse me, a very good way of blocking time.
Yeah.
And trying to say no to stuff. I always had a very hard time saying no to, oh, I can volunteer for this, or I can help you out with that. And it took me a long time to say no to certain clients that thought they could just keep ringing around like, well, I want to go see this one. I want to go see this one. And I'm like, you know what? We need to take a step back and sit down and really see what you need to do.
Right.
Some of them were like, you know what? You're right. And then the others were like, I'm moving on then. And I did the same thing when I was in my full-time salary job. You had goals, you had quotas. And but when you're working 100% commission based, you want to be sure that you have everything in line, that you're not screwing anything up that could hurt you or your family or your business. So
yeah, it's all about boundaries, right? You got to have boundaries. And I think that's one thing that new agents are struggling with is boundaries, because they're so desperate to get business, but you don't really realize you have to take the proper steps, right? You can't just like go out and show some stranger a vacant house at 9 o'clock at night because you're afraid you're going to lose the business. It's not safe, and you got to be careful. And I see too many agents doing that, and I'm just like, oh, calm down, slow down, ask the right questions, get the right information first.
Well, and when I started in 2007, when the bubble burst, it was a great time to get into real estate.
This is why we get along so well.
Yes. I remember, I'm trying to remember, there were people that I had as clients, that I helped them with their advertising for years. And there were a couple of them that were like, if it doesn't work out in the real estate world, you can come and work with us.
Yeah.
Whether it was like a bank or a hospital or jewelry store. And I'm like, you don't think I can make it? And they're like, no. We do think you can make it. However, it's going to take you a long time to get to where you want to be. I'm like, how do you know where I want to be?
Right.
And they're like, you're so successful in what you're doing now. And I said, yeah, I am. But when you're in the corporate world and you are working 8 to 5, and sometimes you go out after with your colleagues or with clients, but you want to be home. And sometimes your company's like, you shouldn't just go home. You need to go out and, schmooze. And I'm like, that's not me. I mean, when you have small kids. And so I had a lot of those clients that really did believe in me, and they became clients to find homes and to sell homes. And they told their friends, and their friends told, so that was many, 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 many homes ago.
Yes.
And, there are actually a few that I've helped, I think like 3 or 4 times because their families grew or they downsized or they moved out of state and they came back.
Mhm.
So I actually see one of the past clients that I had when I worked at Adams Outdoor, which was a wonderful place, and they do such great work. And my client, like I'll see them like out to dinner or whatever, and they always come up to me and give me a huge hug, like, I'm so proud of you, and I'm so glad you never came to work for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm like, me too. I love you,
Yeah,
but me too.
that's cool. I
Yeah.
love that your cheerleaders, right? We all need that
Yeah,
in
we
our,
all
you know.
have them, and some of them are quieter than others, or they'll like send a text and they're like, I knew you could do it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Our friend Jeanette is watching. Hello, Jeanette.
Hello, Jeanette.
I know you probably don't get to see her often because she's in our capstone group, but oh my God, she's a hoot. She
I love her. I actually just sent her a text the other night, and there was a funny incident that happened the first week that we all met, and I don't know if you remember. Um, it had to do with Doritos.
Oh no. I don't know.
So one of and Jeanette, help me out if I'm not saying the right thing, but like there was something that one of them said, like, if you can make fish butter, what would you put it on? And then it came to Doritos, and everybody wanted their bag of Doritos.
Oh, I
Well,
remember the fish butter. I do remember the fish butter.
so I actually met somebody who they work for Frito-Lay, and he's like, "You want Doritos? I will send you boxes and boxes of Doritos." And I was like, "I've got to let Jeanette know this." So I sent her a text the other day. I said, "We have to hook up on Doritos, just so you know."
That's funny. That
You never know who you're going to meet.
that's awesome.
I don't
I
really like Doritos, but I'll eat them.
I can't eat Doritos only because that I think it's got MSG and it gives me a migraine, unfortunately.
Sure.
But I'll like sneak a couple out of my daughter's bag every once in a while. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, these are pretty good, but I can't eat them, unfortunately. But Jeanette says, ready to see you in Chicago. Yes, we're excited. I'm excited to go to Chicago. Let's see. And on Instagram, Karen Trevino, she's awesome. She's out of Miami, Florida. She says, sometimes we don't know we have it in us until someone taps you on the shoulder. So true. So
Absolutely.
true.
Absolutely. Yep.
She uses forewarn to um, look at clients' information before so that's, yeah. If you don't have forewarn in your MLS, it's a great,
Yes, we do. We do. We all have it, which is a wonderful tool to have.
yeah, absolutely. Looks up numbers and have you looked up yourself yet?
I actually have.
I haven't yet. I'm kind of scared what will come up.
And I'm like, okay, whatever. It's so boring.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about Narla. I know
Okay.
there's certain things we probably can't say, but how did you let's start about how like you started. Was that your first time applying? Had you applied before? First time. Okay.
That was my third time.
Oh, your third time. Okay.
Yes. That was my third time. And I knew that it was a very well sought after program. You're going up against hundreds
Yeah.
hundreds of realtors who are in the same mindset as you are.
Yep.
And I honestly never thought that I would be in the world that I am, like how involved I am.
Right.
Because when I started, I didn't know that part of real estate existed.
Yeah. I didn't either.
And there are newer agents who are like, what are you talking about volunteering for this and volunteering for that? I'm like, let's sit down. and have a chat, because when I started, it was okay. It was like cutthroat, you need to make $1. And the good thing was I had a sphere that I could pull from. These are people that I've known. They really didn't have a realtor that they were using.
Mm-hmm.
So I, had a very good base, but it was like keeping in touch with them and making sure that they called me before calling anybody else, or pulling up to a house and like, oh, I just called the sign. And then you're
Yeah.
like, no, this isn't how it works. But I didn't get involved until probably, so I started 2007, and I didn't get involved until about 2012, 13. And our girls were older. So our oldest daughter was trying to do math here. Sorry, Piper, I know you're watching.
She's like, no, no.
13. So she was 10, and our daughter Parker was 7. So I thought, okay, now I can, be on a committee. I can do stuff locally. And then I was on our board. And then at the time I thought, you know what, maybe I'm going to step off for a bit because I have a lot of stuff going on. The girls, they were active in everything, and I didn't want to miss a thing. And so my husband was also like, whatever you need me to do to help, just let me know. And I'm like, absolutely will. I always have a hard time asking for help because I'm a control freak. Yes, I said it. I'm a control freak.
I am too.
And so I was like, okay, I'm going to wait a while. They're getting more into like travel soccer, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. So a colleague of mine from Springfield, Illinois, which is like an hour south of us, it was when I was president of our local association. He came up to me when we were in DC in May. So that was May of 2019. And he said, I would like you to consider doing more with our state. I'll be on a couple committees. I can see you, going far. I don't know what you want to do, but take your passion and go with it. And then I thought, I didn't think of that. So it took somebody to come up to me and tap me on the shoulder and say, here's what your opportunities are.
Yep.
And so that was like, you just opened up a can of worms with that.
Oh yeah.
Because I started going not only to all, like I was going to all of the state stuff because I had to. When you're president, president-elect, if you're treasurer, it's like they expect you to be there and you're representing your local association. But it got to a point where I wanted to go. So when I was not in the chairs anymore, I was on committees. I still took my husband and we paid to go to our annual, wherever it was. And then we went to which used to be called mid-year, which I still call it that, but the legislative conference, and then got involved more with federal political coordinator, RPAC. I'm on a couple of our committees, and they give me energy. When I go to any of these sessions or conventions, it just gives me this like recharge of you're doing the right thing. I've never gone and then come home and been like, nah, this isn't for me anymore. I mean, you have to adapt. We have a lot of change going on. And when you're explaining that to other people who think they get it, but they don't get it, and you're trying not to be a know-it-all, I'm like, read the fine print right here. Read this. This is what you need to do for your business. I'm not telling you anything you shouldn't know. Like, yeah, but you're involved and you do this. I'm like, you can be involved too. It's not oh, they shouldn't be involved. They shouldn't be involved. Everyone should be involved.
Yeah.
No matter if you're a newer agent or if you've been doing it for 25 years.
We want all voices. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm kind of similar story. So the brokerage that I was at originally, the broker there was not very supportive of, outside of the office type stuff.
Mhm.
But I always kind of had an interest in the association. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to go check it out. Checked out a couple of committees and went to some YPN committees. And the chair at the time, I believe she was a chair, she invited me to state. It was my first time going to state meetings and got involved with the YPN. They were making YPN a standalone committee. And I was like, this is so interesting. I love all of this, kind of thing. And from there, it's just been, whoo,
Yep.
2016, like I revived our YPN and chaired our state YPN. And I'm just like, people like tell me like you look at me and they think YPN just because I'm always talking about it. I'm so passionate about what YPN has done for me and what I've seen it do for other upcoming leaders and stuff. So I always tell people get involved. I mean, just find something that you're passionate about.
Right.
Go check it out. Maybe it's not for you. And maybe it's not for everybody, but it's worth at least trying and
Absolutely.
seeing. But so tell me a little bit about your phone call when you found out that you got into NARLA.
So Marla, so I had applied 20 for 2022 and I thought I'm not going to get it, but I want to apply anyway.
Yeah.
And I got the call that I didn't, and I was like, okay. And then he goes, it isn't that you did anything wrong. It's like there were 20 other people that just did things a little bit better. And I understood that. I was like,
Yeah.
all right. And he goes, work on this and please apply again. I was like, great. So the year after, I did some other things that were so cool. And I applied. And I'm like, I think I'm going to get it. I think I'm going to get it. I think I'm going to get it. I didn't get it. And
Yeah.
I remember I was at my daughter's travel soccer game and the chair of that committee had called and I'm thinking, I don't think I got it. So I answered, I'm like, hey, how are you? And he goes, hey. And I like got up to walk away because I could just feel it just building up. And he's like, I just want you to know. And I'm like, you bothered me last time, but this time, like I felt. Yeah. So I was walking towards the concession stand.
Oh no.
And I went into the bathroom and I kind of cried for a bit. And then I went to the concession stand. I'm like, I have a thing of nachos on a pretzel. I don't care if anyone else eats this. I had to text my husband. I'm like, can you help me carry this back to our chairs? So I was kind of quiet the remainder of the night. And I talked to my husband is very easy to talk to. He's very patient with kind of asking and understanding without pushing those buttons of don't ask me that question.
Yeah.
And he just let me talk. And I'm like bawling my eyes out because I, didn't get in. And then he goes, honey, you're not the only one that didn't get in.
I love that.
He said, there are other people that work just as hard as you, but there were 20 other people, as that chairperson said, that they just did that one extra thing. And it maybe isn't what they do every day. Maybe it was a question that they answered or their video or they gave a little nugget about what they do.
Right.
So throughout the year, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to apply again. And then one of my very good friends, he was in NARLA 2021, and he was installed as our state president. And like the majority of his class came to his installation, which was so cool.
Aww.
So he introduced me and said, this is Suzanne. She's going to be in NARLA one day. And I'm like, I don't know. And then, and I'm going to actually say his name because he is one of the most amazing people I met. Gonzalo. who is, he's from Florida, and he
Okay.
was in the 2021 class. Amazing individual, great human. I've been able to run with him when we were, like in Miami or DC. And he looked at me and said, apply again. I applied multiple times and I didn't get in until that class was meant to be my class.
That's
And the way
true.
he said it, and I looked at him and went, I didn't look at it that way.
Yeah.
So when I got back home and I'm like, all right, I'm going to apply again. And Andy's just sitting there and then he goes, I knew you would. And then our daughters are like, I think this is going to be it, Mom. And I'm like, don't like tell me that, because if I don't get in, I'm going to be really pissed off. But I knew I had a good chance. I mean, we all do. It's just timing, and if it's meant to be, it is. And so a phone call came in, and it was a Colorado area code. I didn't answer it because we were on a FaceTime, and I'm like, I don't know who that is. I'll just let it go to voicemail. So after I got off my Zoom call, I listened, and it was like, hi, Suzanne, this is Keith Moto. Can you give me a call? And I'm thinking, I don't know a Keith from Colorado. And then I'm thinking, wait a minute. And so I looked at my email, and he was going to be the chair.
Yeah.
And so I gave him a call back. I'm like, hey, Keith, it's Suzanne Miller returning your call. And he's like, hey, how are you? And I'm like, good, how are you? And then he goes, and the way he started talking,
yes,
almost that, well,
yes, like you didn't get it.
No. And then he goes, well, I just wanted you to know how excited we are for you to be part of NARLA 2024. And I'm like, are you lying to me? Are you kidding? And I said, and I couldn't help it. I said, no shit. Bleep. So he goes, we just loved your interview, and your answers, your questions were so honest, and your activities and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And he goes, okay, so you're going to get an email. And he was explaining everything. And my husband had just gotten home, and I tried to be very calm and everything. And then he sat down. I was skipping from one end of our house to the other. And I went, guess what? And then he goes, you got into NARLA. I overheard you.
That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah. And I'm like, but we couldn't say anything yet.
Yeah.
Because
that was the hard part. Yeah.
So I told him, I said, don't tell the girls, I couldn't say anything until it was like a month.
It was a long time.
It was.
Yeah. It was so hard.
Finally, I'm like, but I had gotten a couple texts from people who I knew that were, either on TV or whatever. And they're like, congratulations. I'm like, how did you know?
Yeah.
Like, well, when you're over there,
Right. Exactly.
No, really cool.
That was like the best phone call. And it was kind of a similar situation. I was actually in Minnesota, I think. I was at a speaker retreat, and I was we stayed at this lady's house. It was like a lake house, and I was in the basement packing up. And same thing, I got a phone call from a number that I didn't recognize. And I was like, I can't deal with this right now. I'm trying to pack, but something told me, just answer it. And so I answered it, and it was Keith. And the same thing, acting like, bummed out. I was like, dang it. And my heart started sinking again, because this was my second time. And my heart started sinking. I'm like, shoot. And then he did that. And I like, kid you not, I yelled so loud. I'm like, you're kidding me. You're right now. This is a joke. Like, seriously? And everybody upstairs is like, are you okay down there? And it was so hard to keep in because I couldn't tell any of them what the call was about. Like I just was like, oh, I just got really good news. Like you'll find out later. I can't say anything. And
Yeah.
and of course I wasn't around any family. I had to call my husband later and told him. But I was so excited because I remember that first call when I applied the first time and I didn't get it. I was so bummed. But then mhm.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I was just so bummed, but talking to other people that have been part of NARLA, like you said, it makes sense. It's just not your time because they're really good and they put so much work into it. And shout out to that committee or that group that does all this. It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
It's like a puzzle piece, right? You're trying to piece, diverse like backgrounds and personalities and make this cohesive group. I don't know how they do it, honestly. Like to go through 100 and some applications and watching all these videos. So kudos uh, to them for putting that work in because
like, look, oh my God. But yeah. So, being able to be, I was in our local leadership academy back in like 2008 or 9 or 10. I don't know. It was one of the early years. And then I was able to be in our state one in 2019. And then I'm currently the chair of our state one. And
nice.
It's so cool to see how these individuals grow, not only, if they've been in the business for a long time, again, or if they're newer, and what they learn as to what they knew when they came in and how they use the tools that they're given, which aren't even tools. I mean, they're anecdotes and stories and sharing with their colleagues. I mean, that's what we do with our class. And I know every class says we're the best class ever. Yeah. I truly feel that our class, even though we only see like
the whole group
of us right now, but when we get together and all 20 of us are together, it's just kind of like this. We picked up right where we left off. Like we'll send random texts to each other or call, and it's like this little family, and I love it. I'm so proud to be a part of it.
Yeah. So I would highly recommend, and I tell everybody that I think would be great, like apply. And like you said, I love that you bring up the local and state leadership too, because our Montana, I actually got to be part of that PAG that started the Leadership Academy, and then I got to do the first year, and I learned so much, like so much that I got to bring back to my local association that improved a lot of things that we just never thought about. Like, oh gosh, I never thought about that. So, I mean, it doesn't mean that you have to be the next NAR president if you're part of this. And I was talking to Kate about that the other day. I think that's what stops people are like, well, I don't want to be. And no, that's not what it's about. I mean, it's really to improve your leadership skills in whatever in your business, in your life, in your associations, right?
Right. And if you want to continue to be involved at a different level than what you're in, like I love being able to be on the NAR RPAC Major Investor Council. Like there's like usually 2 or 3 people from every state, or one. I mean, I'm the only one from our state. But like the huge states like Texas and Florida and California, they have like 2 or 3. But hearing what they do to get to their goals,
right,
and how every goal that we have individually as a state, how it's all comprised of, here's where we're going to get to our total goal as NAR.
Right.
And you're able to help with that by helping your state. So it's kind of like, I love being a part of that committee work where I didn't know that existed
Mm-hmm.
10, 11 years ago.
Yep.
And I love that I'm able to be involved on a state level to where I am. And there's always like one or two people within our local that I'm like, tap, tap, tap. Why don't you come to our fall meetings? Why don't you come to our winter meetings? Come and see what it's about. Come to lobby day, which I feel is one of the most exciting and
Oh yeah.
fun experiences that you can have as a realtor, locally and state. And then come to DC if you can. There's some associations where they give a stipend.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're on certain committees statewide, then your association may help you out. And a lot of people they don't think, oh, I didn't even know that was even an
Yeah.
option.
Right.
But I mean, even going to, I've, I think I've only missed two annual conventions.
Oh
One
wow.
day when I was between being in the chairs, which I'm like, I just need a break. And then the other one, we had some family health issues, and so we're like, you know what, we're just not gonna go. But it was weird not being there. I didn't feel like I was doing anything, but I did. So
Yeah, that's now I'm addicted. Like I have to go, even if I'm not going to be, because I'll be president next year of our local association. But even past that, like I'm still going to go. Like even before I was a chair and would get stipend, like I would just pay my own way because
mhm.
to the networking opportunities, like meeting people from all around the country is huge. And your idea sharing, collaborating, like I always tell people you gotta go, like you gotta check it out, and the energy and the synergy, it's priceless, I think. So you're a fellow runner. I've been watching your posts lately. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now with St. Jude.
So actually it all started the year before I had our daughter Piper, who was our oldest. I started running with a friend of mine. I was just like, she was like, hey, let's start running. I'm like, okay. I mean, whatever. I started running and I thought that running was making me sick.
Oh
No,
no.
I was pregnant.
Oh.
So after I had her, I wanted to get back in shape a little bit. And my friend was like, hey, there's this running event. It's called St. Jude Runs. And in our area, um, St. Jude is a huge part of our community. Little sidebar info. So Jim Maloof, which is the company that I work for, he was very good friends with Danny Thomas, who was the one that brought St. Jude to Memphis.
Okay.
So St. Jude is there because of Danny Thomas, and St. Jude is in Peoria because of Jim Maloof. So a fundraiser that was started back in 1982 to help with, care for kids. There's an individual, Mike McCoy, and his friend Gene Pratt. Mike is still in charge of it. He's amazing. He's been doing this for 43 years.
Oh wow.
He started St. Jude, Memphis to Peoria. So out of that have become all these other runs throughout our entire state. The one that I started when Piper was 6 months old, it was called St. Jude Tri-County Run. So you literally ran throughout the 3 counties, which was like 53 miles. You didn't do it all, even though there were like 2 or 3 people who loved to do it all. And so I started to do that, raise money. At the time, I think you had to raise like $500 each time, and it was all day long. It was the same weekend every year, and the telethon was that evening. So as years went by, we all, got older, had more kids, ran a little more. I started doing half marathons and marathons, not because I had to, because I'm like, I can do this. Well, in 2014, Jim Maloof, um, he had, and I'm going to make sure, I don't know if he had just passed away but he was like 92. And he was an
Oh, wow.
amazing man. And I had told him one day, I'm going to do St. Jude. I'm going to go to Memphis. Well, that was when I started. I've been doing Memphis for 11 years now.
Wow.
So, you have to raise at least $3,000. You have teams, and what it is, there are two teams. There's the gold team and blue team. And you leapfrog. Gold team starts running back from Memphis. And then 8 hours later, blue team goes. And then blue team stops, and then gold team. So we go off and on for 465 miles.
Wow.
And we do it every year. I've been running St. Jude for 21 years. And out of those 21, I've been doing 11 for Memphis. And this year was really exciting because both of our daughters did it.
That's awesome.
So they're raising money as a team, and I'm doing my own. So I have a goal every year of $10,000. And I'm like 1,500 away. And all of the money goes to St. Jude. So no family has to pay a bill.
That's awesome.
Which is amazing. And a big part that I actually skipped over was we leave for Memphis. So we left on Tuesday, the 16th. 16th. Yeah. And we got to Memphis in our RVs. There's like about 8 people to an RV. So you get very close with your RV family. And you get down to Memphis. We have a runners meeting, and we have awards and stuff. And then then you can go out and enjoy Memphis, get some good BBQ, and get up the next day. We have a tour of the hospital, which, if you ever have an opportunity, St. Jude is honestly one of the most amazing places on earth because it caters to the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And right. Again, their families don't pay a bill. So we are raising money to make sure and ensure that they don't have to pay anything, and help the hospital run, because it's like, I don't know the exact number anymore, but I think it's like $1.5 million a day to
operate. Wow.
So we have a tour of the hospital, some fun events go on, and then around noon, gold team starts, and they run back. And then we drive an hour, and then we meet with them later that night, and then blue starts. So it like goes back and forth. And then we got back on Saturday, and we ran across the bridge from East Peoria to Peoria, where our community is like no other. I mean, the entire city is downtown. And they're welcoming you back. I mean, we have a couple 100,000 people that are there, and it's amazing. I mean, maybe not all of them are there, but I mean, it's
big, yeah.
And then all of the other satellite runs, there's 35 other runs. They're all there too, welcoming you back. Then we all run into the Civic Center where the telethon is going on. And then we get the totals and we celebrate, and then it's done.
That's cool that you do that. Thank you for doing that. That's awesome.
Absolutely. I mean, it's kind of like people are like, how long are you going to do it for? I'm like, well, until I can't run anymore,
Right until you can't run anymore.
or if they find a cure, which you're very hopeful
Yeah.
that they do. But the research team at this hospital, they've made strides where there are kids that were diagnosed back like in the 80s, where they were like, they will never run, they will never be able to grow up. And some of those kids are on our run now. They are
Way.
adults, they have children, they're leading healthy lives. You're always a patient. So, like, you go back for trials or you go back to make sure that everything is going well. And it's like you become a part of their world and they become a part of yours. And St. Jude is just a amazing place, and anything that we can do to help. We have healthy kids. So that was part of why I said, sure, I'll do this little run with you. And I had no idea how much it would be a part of my life,
Right.
my family's.
So where could people are watching, they're like, I want to donate to the cause. Like where's a place that they could go to donate and maybe to help with your goal?
So I have a link that goes straight to the St. Jude site. And I don't know if you want me to, do you want me to put it in the chat
Yeah.
or?
Are you able to do that?
I think so. Let me
Okay.
see here. Let me see fundraising. There's mine. Or if you want, I can send it to you. Would that work?
Yeah, that'll work because I could just copy and paste it and put in the comments.
Cool. Okay. So
Yeah.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to send this to you because I don't want to mess anything up on your screen up here.
Yeah, and I don't know what it looks like on your end. I'm kind of curious. I like what you see.
No, I see our side by side, and then I see you're in the show and leave studio if you're having issues, and log in, sign up for free.
Can you see the chat? Can you see what people are commenting?
Let's see. I see private chat. Oh, here's comments. Yeah. Oh,
So you can see
yes.
it. Okay, cool.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
so I'm gonna copy and paste this link right now.
Yeah. Thank you for
Okay,
doing that.
so those are you that are watching and you want to help Suzanne reach her goal. You're only $1,500 away. Is there a time limit when you're supposed to reach this goal?
By October.
Okay, so
Yeah.
by October.
Yeah, I
Click on.
have. There's like a link from um, Facebook and then one other, and the totals don't look like they are at the 8,500. But I have checks that people have
Oh,
in that aren't going to be on there. So,
gotcha.
but yeah,
So
no,
click the link and throw
yes,
whatever you can, even if it's $5.
any amount helps. Any amount. I mean, the amount of work that St. Jude does, we will just continue to raise money, and sometimes it isn't as much as we would like, but we will do whatever we can.
Yeah. So in all of your travels, what has been your most favorite place to run?
So I'm gonna say I was very fortunate to run the New York Marathon last year.
Wow.
Yep. I was supposed to do it in 2020. I was running for the Colon Cancer Foundation, but of course they canceled the marathon.
Mhm.
So I ended up doing that one at home. Like, I came up with a route. Sidebar, I'm a colon cancer survivor. It'll be 8 years in November. So again, I'm kind of a fundraising freak. I just like to raise money and give it to wherever they need help.
Right.
And colon cancer was something that was not very prevalent. I didn't have any family history of that. So for a 40-year-old to get that, and I was very healthy, I was training for my third marathon at the time, It was just kind of like a what just happened to my world kind of thing.
Oh,
So
yeah.
anyway, I didn't have anywhere to really go to get help. And so luckily I got it, or I caught it early. They removed it. Um, and I had reached out to the Colon Cancer Foundation, which was in New York. And I kept getting emails about, would you like to run the marathon? Would you like to run the marathon? If you raise, I think I had to raise like $3,500. So I did. And then I was going to run it there. And they're like, oh, there's this thing called COVID, and we're going to shut everything down.
Ah.
So they sent me this option of, if you would like to keep your spot, you can either run in 2021, 22, or 23. And I thought, I want the very last year to do this. So I trained, and my family and I, we made it a family affair in New York. It was awesome. Was able to represent colon cancer awareness, and I was able to have one of the best experiences running through the 5 boroughs of New York.
Oh, wow.
It was kind of like I am taking this all in. I don't care how long it takes me. It was a feat to get to the starting line, though.
I bet.
From your hotel, because we were staying in Manhattan, I had to take an Uber to catch the Staten Island ferry. Take the Staten Island ferry to Staten Island. You take a bus to Athletes Village, and then you walk about a half mile up to the Verrazano Bridge where you start. So that right there was like 2 miles.
Wow.
But it was, I mean, we ran over every bridge. We went through neighborhoods that I've only seen on TV. Like, it was so cool. And then when you got done, or actually I should back up a second, there were 50,000 runners. And there were waves if you were really fast, which again, I'm not. You started at like 8 a.m. and then the wave was at 9 or 9:30, and then my wave was at 11:30.
Oof.
So I was already tired a little bit. So started at 11:30, and it started getting dark around 4. So you're going through Central Park, and you get done.
Yeah.
And my family was waiting for me, which they sent me a pin of where they were, and I'm like, it looks like you should be right here. I had to walk all the way around Central Park to get to them. And my watch died at mile 18. So luckily, I had my phone, and it clocked that I did 31 miles.
That's insane.
So, long story short, my favorite place to run was New York.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that. I would say New York. I ran Central Park, and then kind of ran, throughout Manhattan when I went to visit my daughter, and then San Diego Beach. Like,
Yes,
beach. Oh, it was La Jolla. I ran La Jolla back and forth. I think it ended up being like 6 miles or something, but it was just so beautiful and so peaceful. And running in the sand is hard.
It is hard.
It's very hard.
Where I love to run every year when we're in May, or when we're in DC in May.
Mm-hmm.
And I always run with a group early.
Yes.
So we catch the sunset, and we call it our own monumental run.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to look at Abraham Lincoln at 6 a.m. and being like, oh my God, no one else is in here.
Yeah.
It's just so beautiful. That's one of my favorite places to run to. So
that is a
lot of great spots.
Yeah, and I miss running with did you run with Lee Brown?
Yes.
Because I couldn't find anything like on the runner Facebook page about it. So I'm like, well, maybe nobody's running. So I just ran with another gentleman out of Texas, and him and I just ran. And like you said, it's just so beautiful watching that sunrise by the monument, and so peaceful because nobody's really out and about. And yeah, I highly recommend that one too. That's a fun run.
Well, we'll have to do that when we're in DC in May.
Yes, I know we haven't been able to connect yet, but
No.
in Boston, are you doing the Realtor Run?
Yes.
Awesome. What team are you?
I mean, I could always pay for the shirt and just sleep, like the option.
Why did you do that?
It's so funny. I just think it's hilarious. You can pay 100 and stay in bed.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense for those that want to donate but don't want to run or get up that early in the day. What team are you running with?
So I signed up with our state.
Okay.
And then I know there's some people from our class who are like, hey, do you want to do one together? And I'm like, I might have to wear like half of my shirts for Illinois and the other half for NARLA.
It's hard because same thing, like I'm running with the YPN group, the NAR YPN group, and then the state started one, and I was like, oh darn it, I already joined the YPN one, and then NARLA, our NARLA group started one. I was like, how can I be in all of them at the same time?
I represent all.
Yeah.
Represent all things.
Yeah. And the Realtor Relief Fund is such a great program. So basically all the money, like absolutely every penny, goes to disaster victims areas. In fact, our town of Red Lodge in Montana was able to use those funds a couple of years ago. We had a huge flood, and so I've seen the impact here locally of how that helps, and the public can donate to it as well. So yeah. In fact, our YPN group here locally, we're running Christmas in July, and we're trying to raise funds for that. So if you guys want to donate to that, hit me up and I'll get you the proper link. But yeah, it's such a good program.
Yeah.
I agree. So we're kind of getting towards the end here of our hour, but is there any words that you have for maybe the youth coming into real estate, and maybe they're not young, but they're just getting into real estate? Do you have any like advice, tips for them?
So I actually just had a conversation with a newer agent. They were actually getting out of a job that they were in for a long time, and they were like, I just don't want to do it anymore. I'm able to do something else. And they were like, I don't know where to start. And I'm like, well, if you're a newer agent and like you're new in town and you don't know anybody, join a team.
Yeah.
Get to know how things are done. Get to know the process. Only read articles from NAR. Don't go to the third-party sites. Don't say, oh, well, I read this thing on such and such.
On Facebook.
It's incorrect information.
Yeah.
So go to the source. And especially newer agents that are getting into it right now, we're about to go through an industry change that we've never seen before.
Yep.
So make sure that any articles that are sent out by NAR or your state association or your local association, read those. Talk to your managing broker. Ask questions. Make sure that you understand what will happen if A, B, or C happen. You know, and I mean, my company is so great about explaining things. We have a meeting every Tuesday. It's live in person, and they also do it online. So it's like a hybrid of, if you're able to come, great. If not, you know, you're still on there. And it's like they're giving you the information before you have to ask anything.
Right.
If you still don't understand it, you have people that you can talk to. Do not, please do not think that HGTV and all these other shows are real, because
really not. Right.
If you're a butterfly farmer and you make pencils and you work from home and you have $2.2 million to spend, that's a lie.
Yes.
The
I
approvals
agree.
are important and
Yeah.
the buyer's agreement is mandatory.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are things that we've been doing for years, but you have to do them now. It isn't we can get that done at the end. No, you have to do it now. This is
Exactly.
a total shift in our market, and the good agents will only get better.
Yeah.
And I've heard a lot of, I don't want to say disturbing stats, but one that I heard for newer agents, 86% of newer agents who started within the past 4 years are not going to be in it within a year.
Right.
And I know a couple of them who they're working their tails off,
Mm-hmm.
but they're also like, well, if it doesn't work out, I'm going to go back to this, or I'm going to
Yeah.
move on to this. Like, it's not their end all be all, but they're putting whatever they can into it to make sure that they can do what they can do. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know what else I would do if I was in this business. I've been in it for so long. And
Yeah.
could I find another job? Yes. Would I be happy in it? Probably not.
No.
So let's make
Yeah.
sure this works and
We got to
follow
make it work.
directions and listen to your brokers, your managing brokers.
Yeah.
They're there
That's what
for a
they're for.
reason. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was also going to say too, and one of the things I learned through Narla is that NER has tons of tools at your disposal that you just might not know about. Like you can go on there, they have a whole library
Oh my
free for
gosh.
you as a member. Like this, I was like, what? I didn't even know this existed. I mean, there's audio books, there's regular books that
There's
you can.
video, there's archives from anything that you want to know about. They're like, oh yeah, you can go here. Like, there's a library, a literal virtual library of information.
Yeah, that can help you with your real estate business for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. So I was just like, what? I had no idea. So yeah, ner.realtor. You can find those resources there if you're
Yeah.
watching and you're a new agent. And maybe if you've been an agent like me in the business for almost 15 years and you had no idea that this existed, it is there.
And the other part is get involved.
Yes.
Whether it's you start locally, you don't just go on the NAR site and say, I want to be on a committee. They're going to be like, well, you haven't been on anything else.
Right.
What are your interests? What do you want to learn to be more and like, if you like, are you understanding RPAC to a point where you want to explain it to people?
Mm-hmm.
Why it's important, why having an investment is so important to your business and to your
Mm-hmm.
clients, and how to
Yeah.
explain that.
Yeah.
So being involved in going to events and conferences and meeting your colleagues, because you have to work with these people. There's
Mm-hmm.
no, well, I'm just going to do it on my own and I don't care who I work with. I mean, if you're going to become an agent who's going to be hard to work with, it's going to be very difficult for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's one of the things you're right. I would say to younger agents, and I've told this to a couple of friends of mine that got started in real estate recently. I said, get involved. Like I wish I would have earlier in my career.
Mhm.
Because who knows where I would be now if I would have got started earlier. But yeah. But I want to thank you so much for raising your hand and saying yes to this, because this is a great conversation. It's been cool to get to know you a little bit better too, because like you said, we've got such a big group and we're divided in two groups for capstone projects, and so I don't really get to see you as often. So it was nice to chat with you more. And then we'll look forward to seeing you in Chicago.
You too. I'm excited to see everybody.
We need to run this time. Like we need to just make it work. Okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
We will.
Do
we have witnesses.
Yes, we have witnesses that's going to hold us to this run.
Yes.
We're going to do it. 1st of August, if you don't see pictures of us or video of us running, then
We're in trouble.
Yeah, we're in trouble.
Thank
Well,
you for
thanks again.
having me. This has been great.
Yes, yes, and please donate to the St. Jude Run for Suzanne so she can meet her goal.
Thank you.
Yes, yes, and thanks for all you do.
Absolutely. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. Well, have a safe trip back home, and
Thank
we'll
you.
see you in
Okay.
August. Thank you.
See you later. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.